Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. When thought about today, just brings up memories of the series' recent failures because they were bad. They really have been. Let's not sugarcoat it. They were awful. But back in 2001, that wasn't the case. The series was riding high. And that October, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was released, instantly receiving multiple perfect scores and near perfect scores. The game is still listed as the #1 rated game on PlayStation 2 according to Metacritic. My first entry into the franchise was, of course, Tony Hawk 1. I got in on the N64 version. It actually came out a year later than the PlayStation 1 version, but I spent hours playing this game at my buddy's house. Hours, and I just loved it. For the sequel, I actually didn't even play the console version of that game until a couple of years after it came out. I actually dove in on the Game Boy Advance version. Definitely my favorite version of that game. Probably one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games ever made, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we're here to talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. I got this guy Christmas 2001, spent months playing it. Even today, I can just pick this game up, pop it in, and play it as many times as I want to. So today, we're going to check this guy out. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is a skateboarding sim that builds off its two predecessors. Levels are played in 2-minute intervals with multiple goals that need to be completed. Goals can range from the typical get X amount of points and find the secret tape found in the previous games to completely random stopping pickpockets and smashing pumpkins. Since goals are varied in location and type, expect to play each level multiple times to get them all. Scattered throughout each level are upgrade points which increase your skater's stats. While the upgrade system is like the cash system found in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, each upgrade point found in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is equal to 1 stat boost. Another benefit to the new upgrade system is points aren't shared with unlocking new tricks like the cash in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was. Along with stat points, an extra skateboard deck can also be found in each level to customize your skater. Overall, there are 8 main levels in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 with several unlockable bonus levels included. As you would expect from a sequel, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 adds new tricks into the franchise, the most important of which is the revert. The revert is a 180-degree spin executed at the bottom of a quarter pipe. Like the manual from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, the revert is a chaining move that lets you keep combos alive after landing a trick. The unfortunate downside of the revert, however, is that it makes the game easier compared to its predecessors. After a few runs and gaining a better understanding of the mechanics, none of the score-based objectives should prove any problem. Well, except maybe the bonus cruise ship level, because that level's just a dirty troll. Another new addition making its first appearance in the franchise are hidden combos. Okay, they're not really hidden, they're just double presses of flip tricks that you can use to double a flip trick or chain a flip trick into a grab. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 also saw the premiere of Bam Margera as a playable skater, filling the gap in the roster left by Bob Burnquist's departure to a competing game series at the time. In true Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fashion, several hidden characters are included in the game, like Star Wars Sith Lord Darth Maul. If you prefer to create your own skater rather than use any of the real-life pros, rejoice! Numerous options have been added to the Create a Skater mode to really personalize your avatar, including being able to create a female skater for the first time. Music has always been a key part of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater experience. The soundtrack in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 from artists like AFI, Alien Ant Farm, Motorhead, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers really nails it. Hearing all the different songs playing along the sounds of performing and landing tricks couldn't have been better executed. Featuring higher quality models and a great draw distance, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 has graphics that have held up to time well. Unfortunately, texturing is sadly flat and undetailed, and colors tend to be a bit on the bland side. To me, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 really represents the peak of the franchise. As later entries would add in more complex storylines, mechanics, and gimmicks that no one really cared about, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 just got better. While super arcadey compared to newer games like Skate, there's still so much fun to be had in this 6th gen gem. Before I wrap up this review, I just wanted to address one last question some of you might be having after seeing this review. What version did you play? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 saw release on the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox. Thankfully, there's really no big differences between all three versions, so the choice on which one you want to play really comes down to personal preference. For me personally, the GameCube version holds a special place in my heart because that was my original copy, but I'm also pretty fond of the original Xbox version because it does have an extra level. I will say that I found the PS2 version to be my least favorite of the three just because of responsiveness in the controls. For some reason, it just didn't feel quite right. Graphically, each version looks practically identical, but I will give PlayStation 2 the edge on having slightly better contrast, so the colors look slightly better. But models, textures, frame rate, everything else looks pretty spot on to each other. For those of you looking for an even more retro way of playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, try checking out the Gen 5 versions that came out on Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1. This was actually the last Nintendo 64 game that ever got released. For you handheld lovers out there, a version was created for both Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. Although, I will say this, just don't even bother with the Game Boy Color version. It's awful. It doesn't really, it's just not fun. The Game Boy Advance version, on the other hand, new levels in the same way that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 on Game Boy Advance was done. Sign me up now. What are some of your favorite Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 memories, and honestly, what's your favorite way of playing it? Leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, there are quite a few other reviews up on my channel. Go ahead and check them out.